Story 1. The Man at the Window. During the storm. There's something about rain that makes the world feel quieter, like everything is holding its breath. That night, it was coming down hard, relentless, like the sky was trying to wash something away. I was staying at my aunt's house for the weekend. My parents were out of town for a wedding, and since they didn't want to leave me alone for 2 nights straight, they dropped me off Friday afternoon. My aunt lived in a modest, older home near the edge of a wooded area, and though she was warm and welcoming, I always found the place a little off. Maybe it was how creaky the floorboards were, or the fact that the lights always seemed a bit too dim. It felt like a house that had too many memories. The first night passed without incident. We had spaghetti, watched an old movie on VHS, and I went to bed in the guest room. The second night, though, Saturday, is the one I still can't forget. It started with the storm. Heavy winds shook the trees outside, and the rain came down in thick sheets that blurred the windows. My aunt was already asleep by 10 p.m. I stayed up a little longer, lying in bed listening to the storm. The room was lit only by the hallway lights spilling in under the door. Every now and then, lightning would flash and illuminate the entire room for a brief, surreal moment. I was just starting to drift off when I heard it. A soft knock. Not on my door, on the window. I froze. At first, I thought I imagined it. Maybe a branch had been blown against the glass. But then I heard it again. Tap. Tap. Deliberate. Soft. Almost polite. The guest room was on the ground floor, facing the side yard. My heart started beating faster as I slowly sat up in bed and looked toward the window. The blinds were down, thank God, but that somehow made it worse. Whoever, or whatever, was out there was just a few inches away, separated only by a thin piece of plastic and glass. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I just stared at the blinds, waiting. And then, it happened again. Tap, tap, tap. This time louder, more urgent. I don't know how long I sat there staring, afraid to breathe. Eventually, I built up the courage to slide out of bed and tiptoe over to the door. I opened it as slowly and quietly as I could, and crept down the hall to my aunt's room. I knocked lightly, once, twice. No answer. I cracked the door open and peeked inside. She wasn't there. The bed was made, completely untouched. Confused, and now more than a little scared, I went to the kitchen and checked the driveway through the back window. Her car was gone. I hadn't heard it leave. Had she gone out during the storm? I checked the time on the microwave. It was 11:37 p.m. The knocking started again. This time, it came from the back sliding door. Tap, tap, tap. That's when I realized someone was going around the house, trying every window, every door. I panicked and grabbed the largest knife I could find from the kitchen drawer. My hand was shaking so badly I could barely keep hold of it. I killed the kitchen light, crouched by the pantry, and waited, ears straining to hear past the roar of the storm. Nothing for a while. Then a new sound, a voice. "Hey, can you let me in?" It was a man. Calm. Too calm. Like he was asking for directions, not stalking a house in the middle of a stormy night. I didn't answer. I just backed away slowly, trying not to make a sound. "I know you're in there." The voice was right on the other side of the wall now. I realized he was speaking from the front porch. Lightning flashed again, and this time, I caught a silhouette through the thin curtain by the door's window. Tall, thin, hunched. And then I heard something else. The doorknob jiggled, I gasped, and stumbled backward. My hand was still wrapped around the kitchen knife so tightly it was starting to hurt. He was trying to open it, testing it. When it didn't budge, he laughed. A low, rasping chuckle that made my skin crawl. Then silence. I stayed there, crouched in the kitchen for what felt like hours, staring at the front door. No movement, no sound, just the storm. Eventually, I worked up the nerve to check the house. Every window, every door, still locked, no sign of him. I made sure every light was off and went back to the guest room. I didn't sleep, just laid there with the knife on the bed beside me, staring at the ceiling. At around 4 a.m., I finally heard a car pull into the driveway. I rushed to the front window and saw my aunt getting out, holding a bag of groceries under her coat. She had gone out because she couldn't sleep and decided to grab some things early before stores got packed. I almost collapsed in relief. I told her what happened. She didn't believe me. She said it was just a bad dream, that the storm probably messed with my head. But I know what I heard. What I saw. She couldn't explain the muddy footprints leading up to the porch, or the faint smudge on the glass where someone had pressed their hand against the back door. The scariest part? Whoever he was, he never broke in. He didn't rush the door. He didn't shatter a window. He didn't scream threats. He just knocked, like he was waiting for me to open the door myself. Story 2. The Umbrella Man.
Rain has a strange way of distorting reality. It blurs windows, mutes footsteps, and hides intentions. That's probably why I didn't notice the man with the umbrella until it was too late. I was working late that night. Really late. I'm a part-time archivist at the local historical library, and while the job sounds boring to most people, I find peace in it. Organizing, preserving, scanning. I like the quiet. But that particular evening, I lost track of time while digitizing old newspaper reels, and didn't realize it was past 11 p.m. until the lights flickered, reminding me the building was going into automatic shutdown.
The rain had started earlier in the afternoon, but by the time I stepped outside, it had transformed into a torrential downpour. The streetlights were haloed in mist, and the parking lot was nearly empty except for my rusted Corolla and one other vehicle parked beneath a flickering lamp. A long black sedan. Nothing unusual, yet. I ran to my car, jacket over my head. But just as I reached for the door, I saw someone standing on the sidewalk across the street. He had an umbrella. That in itself wasn't odd. What was odd was how still he stood. Motionless, umbrella held directly above his head, feet planted together, as if he had been standing there for hours. He was dressed all in black, with a long coat and a brimmed hat beneath the umbrella's edge. His face was hidden in shadow. I paused. It wasn't fear, exactly, just unease. Something about the way he stood there didn't feel right. He wasn't facing the road. He was facing me. I quickly got into my car and locked the doors. I tried not to look back, but curiosity got the better of me. When I glanced up again through the rain-blurred windshield, he was gone. Just gone. I scanned the street, the sidewalk, even the sedan under the light. No sign of him. I shook it off. Maybe he turned the corner. Maybe my eyes had played tricks on me. Either way, I wasn't about to hang around. I started the engine, turned on the wipers, and began the slow drive home. It wasn't a long commute, just 15 minutes through a quiet residential area, and then down an old back road. As I turned onto that last stretch of road, the rain started to come down even harder. The trees on either side swayed in the wind, and the road shimmered with puddles that reflected the headlights in strange patterns. About 5 minutes from home, I saw him again. The man with the umbrella. He was walking along the side of the road, still perfectly upright, still wearing that brimmed hat. But here's the thing. He wasn't wet. Not at all. His coat looked dry, his umbrella didn't drip, and even the road around him seemed untouched by rain. I slowed down, trying to get a better look. But as soon as my headlights hit him, he stopped walking and turned toward me. I couldn't see his face. It was still hidden, just like before, but I could feel his gaze. A sharp chill went down my spine, and I pressed the gas, passing him without a second thought. I didn't look back. By the time I got home, I had convinced myself it was just coincidence. Maybe there were two men who looked similar. Maybe my imagination was running wild. I was tired, after all, and the storm didn't help. Still, I double-locked my door that night, something I rarely do. I showered, microwaved some leftovers, and eventually made my way to bed. The rain continued to beat against the windows, and lightning flashed occasionally in the distance. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the sight of that man on the side of the road. How dry he looked. How still. How he turned to face me without moving his feet. Eventually, I got up to make tea, hoping it would help me relax. I went to the kitchen, flipped on the light, and froze. There were wet footprints on the tile. Not just any footprints. Bare feet. Human. Leading from the back door to the middle of the kitchen floor, and stopping. No exit prints, just a trail, and then nothing. I ran to the door, checked the lock. Still bolted. No signs of a break-in. I looked around the kitchen, even opened the pantry and under the sink. But there was no one there. The footprints were real, though. I could see them clearly. Damp, slightly smeared, toes pointed inward, as if whoever left them had stood there a long time. I backed out of the kitchen slowly and called the police. They arrived about 15 minutes later, searched the house, and found nothing. No signs of forced entry. Nothing missing. No evidence of anyone actually being inside. They suggested maybe I had stepped in something wet and didn't realize it. Maybe I had panicked and misinterpreted what I saw. I nodded, but I didn't believe them. After they left, I mopped the floor and stayed up the rest of the night with the lights on, knife on the table. At 3:12 a.m., someone rang the doorbell. Just once. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911 again, and crept toward the front door. I didn't look through the peephole. I was too scared. But I did turn off the porch light from inside. Lightning flashed outside, and I saw him, standing perfectly still in the driveway, holding his umbrella. I saw his face this time. It wasn't blurred. It wasn't hidden. It was just wrong. Like someone had drawn it from memory but got all the proportions slightly off. His eyes were too far apart. His mouth was too wide. His skin had no texture, just smooth, artificial looking, like melted wax. I turned the deadbolt again, even though it was already locked. I shut off every light in the house and sat on the floor with my back against the wall, whispering to myself that it was going to be okay. This time, the police didn't find anyone when they arrived, but the officer who took my statement lingered afterward. He asked me what exactly I saw, and I told him. I described the umbrella man in detail. His face went pale. "You're the third person this year who's mentioned a guy like that," he said quietly. "Always during a storm, always outside, never actually breaks in. He just shows up, stares, then disappears." "Do they ever find out who he is?" I asked. The officer shook his head. "Number. And the last person who saw him disappeared 2 weeks later. I haven't seen the umbrella man since, but every time it rains, I wonder if I will. And I keep the porch light off, just in case he's watching."